a time there was a queen who loved to blow bubbles. She loved bubbles. But she didn't always love bubbles. What she really loved was to be queen. And she was really good at it. As a matter of fact, she was probably one of the best queens ever. Yes, she'd say thank you if she could, but I'm busy talking now. Now, what did the queen do that made her such a good queen? She took very good care of her people. Yep. She made sure that they had everything they needed, and if they didn't have that, then she would make sure they got it. Now, she also made sure that the country was well adjusted and tended, and that took a lot of time, and it was very stressful oftentimes for our queen. So she needed to find a way where she could relax. Now, in the very beginning of being stressed, she would go out into the garden and she would sit and smell the flowers. And that was wonderful. And it worked for a while. And then she took up cooking. And she was really very good at that too. And she would bake and she would stir and she would feed not just her family, but the whole kingdom, or queendom in our case. And that was good for a while. But then as her responsibilities grew and grew and grew, the queen did not know what to do to stop her stresses. And then one day, she was taking a walk and she saw somebody. Perchance it was a child. Perchance it was you. And they were blowing bubbles. She was fascinated. So she asked that person, "What are you doing?" And they said, "I'm blowing bubbles." "How does it make you feel?" she asked. "It makes me feel great. I just blow out all my tensions. And then I have this beautiful Sometimes I just make a wand like that." Now, the queen was well acquainted with wands, we all know. So she thought maybe it would help her to sit in her garden and blow bubbles. And so that's exactly what happened. She found a seat in her garden. Oh, it was in her favorite place. Allow me to help her get settled. And there she would sit, and people would come to her with their problems. Of course, she was the queen. It was her job. And she would say to them, as best she could, that she would, of course, help them. "Of course, I will help you, but right now I am busy, busy, busy." And what was our queen busy doing? She was busy blowing bubbles. So days went by, and pretty soon, rather than blowing bubbles for just a few minutes a day, the queen blew them longer and longer and longer. And when people would come to her and say, Your Majesty, I really need your help," she'd say, "Not now. I am busy blowing bubbles." Well, the time between her helping people and blowing bubbles got wider and wider, so that most of her time was filled blowing bubbles. And she was content, and she was relaxed, breathing out and then finding more bubbles to blow. A harmless activity, or so she thought. Now, as time went by, our queen got more and more involved in bubble blowing. And as she became more and more involved in bubble blowing, she became less and less involved in taking care of the people. So pretty soon there were long lines of people coming and asking the queen, Your Majesty, I need your help." And she would say, "Come back tomorrow, because today I am busy blowing bubbles." And that's exactly what happened. The queen spent more and more time. She did no longer cook for her family and for her queendom. And the people were hungry. And the people were sad. They missed their sweet queen who always helped them. And why? Because she was blowing bubbles. Now, soon it became a very important thing that the queen would blow the biggest bubble of all. It took a lot of time to create the biggest bubble. At first, they were little bubbles, and then they got bigger. And pretty soon she blew a bubble that was so very big that it totally surrounded her. And when it totally surrounded her, it lifted her up into the sky, and the queen was flying above her queendom, totally encased in one big bubble. Oh, the people were very sad. Not only did they not get any assistance from the queen, but now they couldn't even find her. Her children were looking everywhere for her until finally someone looked up and said, "Oh, there's the queen. She's flying above us inside of a great big bubble." Oh, and the queen was so happy flying around in her bubble, free of worries and cares. And then she glanced down and she saw how sad the people were. What was to happen to them now that she, the queen, was flying far above them and seemingly unable to get down? The queen began to cry. Now, I don't know how many of you have ever been caught in a bubble, but I would imagine, and imagine I do, that a tear dropped inside that bubble. And a tear is the strongest thing of all when you're sad. And that tear broke the bubble. Don't worry, because the hole was so very small that even though the air was escaping, our queen was gently lifted down to the earth. And when she realized that she was back with the people she loved, the queen, who loved them, understood what she had done. I have become so involved in being relaxed, which is good, but also took me away from all of the things that I need to do to make you safe as well. And so the queen had a lesson that very same day. She gathered everyone around her and she got them all bubbles machines. And then, in that very day, she declared it National Bubble Day. But then there was time to play, and time to work, and time to take care of each other. Why, thank you, Your Majesty. And to this very day, you might see the queen sitting in her garden. You might even see her every once in a while relaxing and blowing a bubble, but you would never ever see that queen only blowing bubbles because she wants everyone to live. You want to tell them? Happily ever after. And that, my dear friends, that is the truth. I can speak quite frankly and with a whole lot of enthusiasm and even a few bubbles or two from the Mentor Project when I say thanks for tuning in. This is Marilyn Price, who will be forever blowing. Get ready, you know what I'm going to say. Bubble. One more shot.